My name is Bill Drennon. Hey, I've been here for 10 years, and one of my passions since I've been here is photographing birds. Now, I go everywhere, and people sometimes stare at me because I'm going places with a large camera. But Cabot went with a gun because in 1841, the way you discover new birds and get positive identification of them is not to magnify them and study them under a lens, but to shoot them. So Cabot would go around with his gun, and every once in a while he would find some overgrown ruin, something new for Stevens to look at, for Catherwood to photograph. So Cabot was actually not only essential to the Stevens-Catherwood expedition, because of the money from his family, because of his medical skills and the goodwill it provided, but also because he kept stumbling into new ruins in search for birds. One of my favorite places to go birding is in the area around Chichen. Now, Chichen Itza happens to be in a location that's very interesting because it is close enough to the shore that you can get some of the birds that are found in these very special habitats and need those special habitats to breed close to the shore. Both the beach area itself, the lagoon that's inside the beach area, the mangrove swamps that are just inside that, and then there's a very scrubby area that goes in for several kilometers above that, and then you've got the trees. And so you have all of these habitats with different kinds of birds in there, and many of the endemic birds are found in these really small habitats, these really little islands of vegetation that are wedged in between Chichen Itza and the ocean shore. The Yucatan Peninsula is fascinating because there are 551 different species of birds found in this relatively small area. Now, there may be even more because every year it seems like somebody's discovering a new species that's either migrated here or had not quite been discovered yet, or some species discovered to be divided into more than one species. So there's liable to be approaching 600 species when it's all over here, but we at least can say we have over 550 species of birds in a relatively small area, which is pretty amazing. A lot of states in the U.S. are proud of the fact that they have 300 species, but we have over 550. And what's even more amazing is that over 20 of these species are endemic, found here and nowhere else in the world, and over 100 unique subspecies are found here. So it's an amazing thing. An island, a relatively isolated island or a relatively isolated peninsula like Yucatan is very interesting to ornithologists for that particular reason. People that study both plants and animals, insects and birds, mammals and other critters are always interested in large islands and large isolated peninsulas because this is where you find some of the neat stuff that you just can't find anywhere else. Cabot was credited with 7 new species of birds in the Yucatan, and even though he had spent a good portion of his life in this hobby or avocation of collecting birds and trying to discover new species, the only place where he was successful, the only new species that he discovered were in Yucatan. Now, fortunately for him, he died thinking he was success in that regard, that he found all these new species in Yucatan, but in reality, it was discovered that they weren't new species after all, just subspecies. Doesn't matter. Stevens was not the first person to discover the ruins that are found in Yucatan, but in the 1840s, the world was ripe to learn about new Mayan ruins, to learn about new bird species and everything, because all of a sudden, America became not the place to make excuses for, some primitive, worthless place, but a very interesting place with a history and with a natural history that were important to the world. So Stevens was here at the right time to publish his book about journeys in Yucatan and reveal to the whole world that there's an amazing place in the Yucatan Peninsula where these old civilization of the Maya lived, one of the longest living civilizations in the world, with these wonderful, unique structures with unique architecture. Stevens was there to proclaim it to the world, and Cabot was here to do several things. First of all, you can see that you can open to new cultures through his medical skills, that it makes an impact in the world, and that he was able to reveal that Yucatan was an amazing place because of the convergence of the migratory paths of birds and because of the new endemic species and subspecies of birds, mostly, as it turns out, subspecies of birds that are here. Now, the other thing really neat about Chichen Itza is there are cenotes there. The reason there's a city is because there's no rivers, they need water, and there is freshwater cenotes there, and some of those freshwater cenotes are right out in the open. And this produces a great habitat for certain birds like what the Maya call the tope. The English word for it is the turquoise-browed motmot. There's actually 3 species of motmot, and 2 species of motmot are found in Chichen Itza, so that makes it even more interesting for that. And it's probably the most beautiful bird anywhere. In Chichen Itza, you can also find, on occasion, the great tropical birds with the big beaks, 2 of the toucans, the kill-bill toucan and the collared aracari toucan. All of these, certainly, Cabot would have seen. Also, the number of woodpeckers there is amazing because you do have large trees there. And so you have the red-fronted woodpecker, one of them that Cabot thought that he had discovered as a new species, but turns out to be a subspecies of the golden-fronted woodpecker. You have the olive-backed woodpecker. You have a woodpecker that, if you hear, and I'm absolutely positive that Cabot, the good trained ornithologist that Cabot had become even before he came here, would have recognized a particular sound. Ba-boom! And then a pause. Ba-boom! And then a pause. Ba-boom! And then a pause. Because that was the ivory-billed woodpecker that's now extinct in the United States, but in the 1840s was around. And people knew that it was around because it was the only woodpecker that would have this double hit, ba-boom, and then a pause, ba-boom, and then a pause, as it took its big, huge, ivory-colored beak and popped it out. Well, here in Yucatan, there was another bird that probably Cabot just dismissed because he thought it was an ivory-billed woodpecker, and now people would be thrilled if it was, called a pale-billed woodpecker. And the pale-billed woodpecker is the same genus as the ivory-billed woodpecker. As a matter of fact, when I first saw it, I thought, I'm going to be famous, an ivory-billed woodpecker here in Yucatan. It's no longer extinct. How great is this? And then I discovered it's a pale-billed woodpecker. Same genus, same size bird, same pattern, same size. The pale or ivory colored beak, slightly different pattern on the back.